Hello, hello, good morning. Happy Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025. I am Manila Chan. That over there is Ted Rall. You are tuned in to the Ted Manila Information Show, or TMI Show for short, because we bring you way too much information. We're live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, so please be sure to hit the like and the subscribe button wherever you're consuming this content. And YouTubers, thank you so much for stepping up to the plate. We are just a few more subs away from being officially monetized. You guys can do us a great favor just by hitting that red subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does a tremendous amount of help for us. So if you can please go ahead and hit that button, we can hopefully get this show cranking, and Ted and I can finally generate some income. Yep. And Robbie too, so please go ahead and do that. On today's show, we're gonna let Ted grind his axe. Ted cannot wait to grind the axe about his epic and legendary battle with the LA Times and the alleged evilness of the owner, Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong, billionaire medical doctor. He's not like a PhD doctor, and he's a doctor. How legit?
He's the Dr. Fauci of the West Coast. Except even more malevolent.
Yikes, man. So if you're new to the show, stay tuned. Ted will explain why he believes that Dr. Pat, as he's lovingly known, why Ted believes Dr. Pat is this evil creature of the medical world, and what's happening with the LA Times, because it's effectively going to die. So we'll tell you what happened. We thought
the TMI Show, as of late next year, will be the only source of news available in Southern California. So you better subscribe now, because as soon as that happens, it's like every show is like $500. It's like take it or leave it. Only for Southern California. Everyone else gets it free.
Yeah, so we're going to geo-target based on all of our platforms that we use. So if you're coming from LA, that's really all you're gonna have.
Early adopters will be spared.
That's right. Then we'll revisit a 46-year-old case that will not go away out where Ted lives in New York City, about Eitan Pates. If you grew up in the U.S., you will know this story. If you're roughly middle-aged like me, you'll know this story, because this is the story of the little boy that basically shaped what the growing up in the 80s was like for kids like me. He shaped how we would be forewarned about stranger danger and all of this stuff. And still 45 years later, that myth, because it's kind of actually a myth, still exists. Usually stranger danger is not the most prevalent danger.
Pretty much a myth. Yeah, it's a myth.
For children.
Yeah.
We've actually discussed this before with, I forget her name. The so-called worst mom in America. Because she's
what's her name?
What is her name?
She's
on a couple months ago.
She also feeds into my gross sexual attraction to skanky ladies. Like she's so hot to me.
Ted?
I know. I don't know. It's so weird.
She is not skanky. I admit she's a pretty lady. She's a pretty middle-aged lady. She's a mom. She's an author.
White trash, though. She's so white trash.
No, I don't find her white trash. I don't.
Wait, are we talking about the same lady?
No, I don't know. I don't think we are. We have her on the show.
Who killed her? I'm talking about the one who killed her child.
No, I'm talking about the lady we had on the show, the guest.
Who?
The lady that wrote the books about free range parenting, Lenore Skenazy.
No, she's not. She's lovely.
I was going to say she's
I'm not talking about her at all. I'm talking about is it Kaylee something? The one who killed her kid went missing, and she's been dating lately.
I don't know. There are a lot of crazy moms who've their kids that have that. I know what you're talking about, that skanky. Yeah, and that men, for whatever reason, fall into the hot crazy lady trap.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
So
those.
it's really funny. So
Lenore is the guest we had. That was,
no, I know Lenore Skenazy was called America. Grok is confirming everything he said.
yeah, calls her the worst mom in America because she promotes free range parenting, which flies in the face of this Aton Pates case, right? And she's also a New York City mom. So, you know, I wonder what she has to say about this Aton Pates stuff. But anyway, we'll
definitely super, super interesting. Casey Anthony.
Casey Anthony. I worked in Arizona, remember? And
she was from Florida, and her daughter,
I think she lives in Arizona.
Died.
Now.
She was acquitted, and she's been dating down there in
no,
in the
Casey.
land
I thought she was
you
from
see what
Arizona.
I mean? She's the skank
no,
I'm talking about.
She's a pretty girl.
Yeah,
Casey
hot.
Anthony.
No, she's very
pretty lady.
But she's totally white.
She lived in Arizona.
She's totally white trash. Now she lives in South Florida.
Well, maybe now she lives in South Florida. I thought
she was from Florida. She still lives in Florida.
Huh.
Florida all the time.
There's an Arizona tie because I remember reporting it 12, 13 years ago when I worked in Arizona. But anyway, we'll move on from that into the sad demise of Theo Huxtable.
She's originally from my neck of the woods, southwestern Ohio. Me and JD Vance.
Really?
She's from Warren, Ohio. Yeah.
Really? Well, Theo Huxtable, not Theo Huxtable, Malcolm-Jamal Warner, he passed away. Mm-hmm. Apparently it was on Sunday, and the news broke yesterday in Costa Rica.
At the same beach that a good friend of mine died at. The same way.
Awful.
Yeah, we'll talk. I'll talk about that. I have a personal connection.
I've been there.
Oh, you've been to that beach?
I've been to that beach. Yeah. I love Costa Rica.
All right, save that. I want to hear all about that.
Oh, I don't have anything to say about it other than
Well, you've been to the beach. Did you swim? Were there rip currents?
Not really. I didn't know. You know how I feel about beaches and pollution. Swim? No.
Why'd you go to the beach?
Because it's pretty and it's peaceful.
The only reason to go to Costa, well, it's not that peaceful with all the tourists being swept out to sea.
I don't have much to say about it other than I had a great time in Costa Rica and I watched some volcanoes erupt. So, but then we'll tell you about
also not dangerous. What could happen?
What? I
stayed have never killed anyone.
It was cool and like I couldn't move. I think Manuel Antonio Park, I think is what it's called. I can't remember. It was many years ago, but it's like I was frozen and I couldn't relocate myself. I looked at it, I can still
Park
see it.
Sounds like a dude who's half Puerto Rican, half Korean.
I think that's what it was called. Manuel Antonio National Park, I think is what it's called. But anyway, I saw active volcano action. I could see how some people get killed by that because you're kind of like entranced by the eruption, like seeing the lava. It's bizarre.
How does the entrancing kill you?
Because then the lava comes down and kills you.
No, you mean you want to get closer.
Yeah, like haven't you heard of all these stories of the people that are actually hiking atop the volcano and then it starts spewing and they want to get closer, and they fall in? What happens?
Oh my God.
There are stories.
Well, there's a scientific term for that. It's called tard.
Well, it's like you and Jamarl being attracted to crazy women like Casey Anthony.
That's our tard. That's our recessive tard gene that we have to constantly suppress.
There you go.
Yeah, we have.
Everyone
has a tard. Men in particular have a lot of tard, recessive and dominant tard genes, and so
this is true.
And we're always fighting it. So
this is true.
Seeing Casey Anthony and thinking, I'd tap that.
Or Lorena Bobbitt. You guys, there's
also
you guys are right. Hot Colombian chick that cuts off peens. Like
right, of course. That's a big asterisk, obviously.
You guys like those. There are chicks that come with warning labels.
You tell your therapist. So she's really great, but there's this one thing. There's always one thing. There's usually 25. Yeah.
As a boy mom, I know. I'm mentally and emotionally preparing myself, so I get it.
Yeah, you've already
Now,
seen the.
speaking of tards,
Yeah, go ahead.
speaking of tards, President Trump is
Right.
pulling the U.S. out of UNESCO because why?
UNESCO. Sometimes we're in, sometimes we're out, sometimes we're in again, sometimes we're out. I mean, who can keep
Because
track, really?
why would we want to contribute to any kind of World Heritage anything?
Nah, nah, it's
Because
bad.
Merca.
America, fuck
And
yeah.
and also about Merca, if you want to come here and visit our UNESCO World Heritage sites, does that mean we lose our designation to those places, Ted, if we pull out?
I don't know. I doubt it. I mean, it would seem to me like
would UNESCO still recognize our places even
I
though we're
don't
no
know.
longer in the club?
Manila, my food is here. I'm going to keep
Oh,
talking. I'll be right back.
okay. Ted's gonna go get his food, his breakfast. Okay, so we'll tell you about the U.S. Now charging an entry fee for visas. It's $250. We'll give you all the details, who's involved, all of that stuff. I could see why Trump would want to do that, because a lot of people, like millions and millions and millions of people, apply to come to the U.S. as tourists. Obviously, apparently the State Department rather has, I think last year, issued like 10 or 11 million non-immigrant visas. So basically it's tourist visas. So if you multiply that by $250 per visa, that's a lot of money. So I guess there's an opportunity for income stream there. So we'll tell you about that. Anyway, that is what is on the show. Ted is back. So
I'm back for a second. I'm going to have to run back and bring the stuff in. I have to buzz the dude into my building, which I just did. And now he's coming up the elevator. And then,
okay.
then I'm going to have to give him a little tip.
And then, yeah, because this first story is obviously about the LA Times. So it's Ted's axe to grind.
It is my axe to grind.
I'm just a local LA native that grew up reading the paper, and
maybe you could talk a little bit about while I go for a minute. It'll be a minute at most.
Yeah,
30 seconds.
Well, I don't have an axe to grind.
But talk about no, you don't have to axe to grind, but just sort of explain the power of the LA Times in the cultural firmament. I mean, fourth largest newspaper in the country, biggest newspaper in the state of California.
Paper. Oh yeah.
Goes back to the
historic paper.
1880s.
1800s, gold rush era.
All right, I'm going to go get my food. I'll be right back.
All right, Ted's going to go get his food. I'm going to hit the Jaws. I'll do some reading about it reading to you about it, because I don't have the intense hatred for the LA Times that Ted has. It is the paper of record for us on the West Coast, the West Coasters. So let's get to that. All right, let's hit the B-roll. Let's see if you guys can see this. Let's make sure. Okay, so that right there is the owner of the LA Times. He bought it not that long ago, less than 10 years ago. Patrick Soon-Shiong, billionaire MD. So Patrick Soon-Shiong, the billionaire biotech mogul and owner of the Los Angeles Times since just 2018, announced on The Daily Show that he plans to take this 143-year-old paper public within the next year. He likened the move to the Green Bay Packers model designed to democratize ownership and let the public gain a stake in the Times. Why now? You may be asking yourself, because he's a billionaire, right? And he bought it, and you would think he'd infuse some cash.
He did say when he bought it that he literally had a 100-year plan for it.
Oh, well,
much
so the
like
paper
Hitler had a plan for a 1,000-year Reich.
Oh my God, Ted, you're likening Dr. Okay, we'll let Ted.
No. Hitler had some likable qualities. I mean,
oh my God, Ted. Okay, so the paper.
I can't say that about Dr. Pat.
The paper has been bleeding red ink estimated to be losing between $30 million and $50 million annually, with newsroom cuts exceeding 20%, including over 115 staffers laid off just this year alone. That's according to Reuters. High profile exits of executives and managing editors, plus turmoil over editorial autonomy, like the blocked endorsement. Remember, the paper did not endorse Kamala Harris last year.
What they mean by blocked is that the editorial board voted to endorse Kamala Harris, and they were like, "Why we endorse a candidate in every election?" And then after they did that, he as publisher
unanimously
basically came down and smushed it. Yeah, it was a unanimous endorsement of Kamala. It's not surprising the LA Times would endorse her. Yeah. She's from California.
And
but
it was Dr. Pat that was like,
And Dr. Pat is, besides being evil, is an idiot, because he could have simply said a year before the election, "We're not going to endorse anyone." A lot of papers aren't, like the Chicago Tribune.
Yeah.
And then this never would have come up, but instead he came off as a Nazi.
Well, so financial instability isn't unique to the LA Times, but its losses forced Dr. Pat to intervene personally, disrupting editorial norms, as Ted just mentioned, even introducing AI as a bias meter to try to regain reader confidence. The IPO is a bold bet. Public ownership could inject.
Dumb 28-year-old daughter in charge of the paper.
Oh my God. The IPO is a bold bet because public ownership could inject much needed capital and reset the relationship between the paper and the readers. But it also means accountability to shareholders, not just the readers or advertisers. If executed well, it could emulate the stability of publicly traded media like the New York Times, though with a more egalitarian twist. Bottom line, Dr. Pat is looking to turn financial freefall into a renaissance, handing readers a literal stake in the paper that they rely on. But with debt, staff unrest, and digital transformation still on the docket, the road to a balanced ledger and sustaining journalistic quality, to say the least, is not going to be an easy road, Ted. So with that, take it away. Tell us why, the short version, why you hate Dr. Pat and why you think this is the death of the LA Times.
Well, I'm going to take that in reverse order. So full transparency, I do hate the LA Times. So if you think that this is all biased because of that, you may well be right. That said, so let me just sort of put this into perspective. I was the cartoonist there from 2009 to 2015. In 2015, I was unceremoniously let go. I will get into that in a little bit. In 2018, Dr. Pat bought the paper from the parent company that owned it, called Trunk, and he took it over. I was continuing to sue during that period. I followed Dr. Pat with great interest, and so let me just say, first of all, the reason I think the paper is fucked. So this guy, he paid $500 million and acquired debt when he purchased it in 2018. It was never worth the best estimates were that it was worth maybe $125 million. He paid $500 million.
Wow.
He claimed, because like all billionaires who buy newspapers like Jeff Bezos, to have a big idea, right? Like, oh, I'm a super smart guy. I'm really rich. I can turn this paper around. Under his rule, this is all completely true and objective and verifiable. Circulation continued to drop. Total circulation, including digital, is down to 300,000. Now, that used to be a 1.8 million paper circulation newspaper.
Yes.
And so Dr. Pat was never able to make the transition to digital. The LA Times, he never had a vision for the paper that made much sense. And he basically fired a bunch of old timers, experienced reporters, replaced them with Gen Z and millennial types who were working for a fraction of the money, and didn't have the same level of experience, and kind of then sold off the old Art Deco LA Times building, iconic building in downtown LA, and moved the paper to the suburbs, under the flight path to LAX in El Segundo.
And El Segundo, yeah, it's right next to the this what is it? The car gurus or something, or like
yeah, Carvana. He's like
Carvana.
Yeah, he's by Carvana. Yeah, it's true. And like literally, I used to always joke with Scott, like, thank you for calling the LA Times.
Planes flying over. It's literally on the other side of the freeway from LAX.
It's dangerous. I mean, seriously, if a bolt fell off a plane, it would fall in through the roof of the LA Times building, which, by the way, he had owned before, which is why he moved.
Oh, that's his old building?
In there. That's his own building that was empty.
I didn't know that.
So basically, he promised to have all this money, but he didn't have all this money, right? So now, I mean, if you know the geography of LA is a vast sprawl. It's like half the size of New Jersey. And in the southwest corner is LAX and the LA Times building. And to get at rush hour from there to northeastern part of LA Metro, like Pasadena, Hollywood, that could take 4 hours maybe. So how are reporters supposed to cover,
Yes. If you're at City Hall, if that's your beat.
The old building was right next to the LAPD, which I'll get it to.
I used to live there,
and
I walked past that old, beautiful Gothic building like every day.
Building.
Beautiful old.
It was like
building.
the Daily Planet. It had one of those big globes in the lobby.
Yeah, totally.
And it was anyway. So but that was a good location because even though it's still LA, nothing was, I'd say, more than an hour and a half away.
You're at City Hall, you're at LAPD, you're at the train station.
If you needed to get out to Santa Monica, you could. Plus, they had bureaus in all those.
And all the protests always happen in downtown.
Right.
So you're going to cover protests.
Right by the paper. Yeah.
You can walk to it as a reporter.
On your hands and knees. Yeah. No, it's right there. So anyway, that Dr. Pat bought this paper. He overpaid. He didn't have a strategy. In my view, the vision of the LA Times, if it has a future, was to try to turn it into the national paper of entertainment. Like, what the Wall Street Journal is for finance, what the Washington Post is to politics. The LA Times could have been about the entertainment paper. It could have bought Variety and the Hollywood Reporter, folded all that in, and then covered gaming, cinema, music, the entire I mean, the only thing the United States still makes, right, are weapons and entertainment.
Yeah.
Certainly entertainment should have a paper. And I think with that brand, I could see the LA Times leveraging themselves into a national newspaper for the entertainment business. But it didn't do that. And it didn't really kind of do anything. They just basically kept putting out a paper.
It's just our daily paper.
They never figured out a digital strategy. The New York Times and the Wall Street Journal did figure out digital, and they make mistakes, but they figured it out. LA Times never did. Dr. Pat has a lot of other things going on. We mentioned that he made all his money through biotech. Well, the reason I say that he's a sleazy motherfucker is because he's being sued 6 ways till Sunday by a bunch of people who basically have the receipts on him. He's a catch and kill guy. Most notorious example is there was a very successful, very high functioning, very affordable breast cancer treatment pill that breast cancer patients took. Dr. Pat had his own shitty version that was very expensive and that didn't work nearly as well. So what to do, right? Is it up your game and make your pill better? No. He acquired the rights to the good one and then forgot to file the renewal applications with the FDA, so it was no longer an approved med, so that breast cancer patients no longer had any other option than to take his overpriced, ineffectual pill. So he's killed thousands of breast cancer victims. He's gotten sued by the shareholders as well for the company that he forgot to file the FDA renewal applications. He's done this over and over and over. He's a doctor the way Dr. Fauci's a doctor. He doesn't practice. He's an entrepreneur born in South Africa. And he's basically brought some apartheid type mentality to the United States. My opinion is that his Nant Tech business is involved in so many sleazy, disreputable, and illegal activities that the real reason he purchased the LA Times was is as insurance. Newspapers generate 90 to 95% of all original reporting. When you see something on TV, on the internet, on the radio, it was probably originally reported by a newspaper. And so knowing
like
that,
shoe leather reporting as what it used to
purchased
be.
the two papers where his businesses are. He purchased the Union Tribune in San Diego, as well as the LA Times. And basically, if you're an investigative reporter and you find out your paper's owner, publisher, is up to no good, are you really going to pursue that? Probably not. Not if you like paying your mortgage every month. So that's kind of like where Dr. Pat's coming from. Now, my own personal thing, I'm not going to get into the whole lawsuit. Suffice it to say, I sued. So in 2015, and this predates Dr. Pat. I'd never heard of Dr. Pat before this incident happened. But unbeknownst to me, the LAPD pension fund had purchased controlling interest in the parent company of the LA Times. And also unbeknownst to me, the LAPD chief, a guy named Charlie Beck, who subsequently was forced to resign due to corruption and in disgrace. But Chief Beck, who then basically owned the LA Times, walked over to the then publisher at the LA Times, Austin Butner, and said, Austin Butner is a former mayoral candidate, also a billionaire. He made his money on the ashes of the former Soviet Union. And he basically was part of invested in enterprises that assassinated their rivals in the streets of Moscow under Yeltsin in the early 1990s. He's basically like Kaiser Soze of LA. And he wants to be basically the mayor of LA or the governor of California. He wants to buy his way into it. So anyway, he was installed by the LAPD to run the LA Times. Beck goes over to Butner and says, fire Ted Rall and make shit up about him so he can never work again. This is all like in the court papers, and anybody who's curious about it can find all the details in a myriad of articles in The Guardian and all over the place on the internet. Just look up Ted Rall, LA Times lawsuit, you'll find stuff. And so this case went on, it dragged on for years. Ultimately, before dying during COVID, when the courts got fucked up and Gavin Newsom decided to put his thumb on the fucking scale. But this went all the way to the Supreme Court at one point. And then died, and ultimately I lost because, it's hard to beat a guy who has billions and billions of dollars and to pay for lawyers. But anyway, Dr. Pat, during all this, bought the paper. And when you buy the paper, you buy the lawsuits that come with it. Now, we rapidly learned that he had no intention whatsoever of making all the things right that had gone wrong under the previous regime. My lawyers were very clear, and so were the lawyers of the other people who had been wrongly fired by the LA Times. We all went to Dr. Pat's people and said, listen, we don't want any money. Like at this point, we know you didn't do any of this. This was the old regime. LAPD is gone. They don't own it anymore. All is forgiven. Thank you for taking over the paper. We just want to go back to work. And
so you had hope.
And we want a retraction. That's all. We were like, well, yeah, it's like a new regime. Like, what am I? I'm going to keep suing the guy who had nothing to do with it? I mean, okay. I mean, so seriously, we're reasonable people here. And just so you know, we're talking about like millions of dollars in settlements were discussed, right? Okay. Sure. So this is not a small amount of money. He had no interest in any of this. And basically, as we came to learn, he also has ties to the LAPD, which is basically a gang in Southern California. And
true.
And I can't even begin to tell you how many people are terrified, including like my lawyer. My lawyer was recommending when I came to court, he's like, don't drive. I'm like, what's going to happen if I drive? He goes, something bad could happen to you. You could be pulled over by the LAPD. I go, what are they going to do? Kill me? He goes, it's happened. It's like, and he's like, it's happened to my friend's clients. It's like, so he's like, just take Uber, just go stay in your hotel. Don't go out, try to travel only during the day, like that kind of thing. I mean, that's what the LAPD is like. So there's the Abraxane, right? The Abraxane is the drug that Dr. Pat basically, I don't know remember if that's his or the one that he killed.
There it is.
But anyway, disgusting series. And anyway, so there's a lot of exposés now about Dr. Pat. Anyway, he promised he was going to support this paper till the end of time. And he didn't care about making money. And none of this turned out to be true. And so basically, right away, he started cutting back the newsroom, cutting staff, moving to a shitty office. He had some really dumb ideas. He installed like a $5 million kitchen at the LA Times. And it was like, we're going to turn it into the Food Network. It's like LA Times is going to be the go-to place for food. Now, don't get me wrong. LA has some great food. But I'm like, you're the LA Times. You're not going to do that. What are you talking about? This was his daughter's dumb idea. He put his daughter in charge of the paper. Anyway, it was one stupid move after another.
His Gen Z daughter.
After another. And nobody's reading the LA Times because A, It's boring, and B, it hasn't changed, and C, it's got this long history of corruption. I'm like just one of many, many stories. I mean, it goes back to like the 19-teens when they were coming out. They were a virulently anti-union and anti-Asian paper. And two anarchists literally blew up the LA Times. They bombed it, killed the night watchman, poor guy. And Clarence Darrow, the famous lawyer, defended them, and pretty much got one of them off the hook, not the other one. So, but anyway, the point is, during the 60s, it sided with the LAPD as they were beating up anti-war protesters. I mean, it's kind of a bad paper in terms of the way, and yet in the 1990s, it might have been the best newspaper in America. It was certainly the best full service paper in America. Like the New York Times doesn't have comics. It doesn't have advice columns or horoscopes. The LA Times did and does. It had it all. And it had bureaus in Kabul and in Paris. In the 90s, it was really, truly.
It was a real paper.
Oh, it was a monster. I mean, the Sunday edition, could hurt you if it fell on your
I remember
foot.
the thump outside.
Oh, yeah, no.
Thump,
it's like, was that an earthquake or is it Sunday morning? Yeah.
And it wasn't ever like a paper boy throwing out like the rolled up, on the Sunday edition. It was grown-ups in the back of a truck having to throw out, because the Sunday edition was like a stack of encyclopedias being thrown onto your doorstep.
It was a beast. It was a beast. So now here we are, right? So Ted, why won't this IPO work? Listen, because people who buy stocks know what's going on with the LA Times, and they know that like Dr. Pat's been out trying to sell this fucker for years to Gannett, to Scripps Howard, to all the other chains, right?
Has he really? I didn't know that.
And he has failed. No, there's no takers. Even Alden Capital.
But he was willing to sell it at a loss?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Yeah. Alden Capital, which is a vulture capital firm that scoops up newspapers, guts them, fires everyone, and basically leeches the blood out of them before they die.
It's the Bain Capital of media ventures.
Correct. Alden was not interested. So this is the fourth largest city in the country, right?
Is the IPO? Why do you think that's a bad idea? So, I mean, first of all, I don't know that
it'll be a penny
how many
stock.
people want to buy stock on it. It'd be penny stock, right? Like
no one's going to buy it. I mean, it's not worth anything. It has no future, right? I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, even if you had someone who had like the Ted Rall vision of turning it into an entertainment rag, that ship has sailed. It's over. It's too late. People are now all on the internet looking at that kind of news. They don't need the LA Times for it anymore. They should have done that 15 years ago. Now it's too late. There's no future.
Is it just that they're behind the ball? Because the New York Times, with how much news they've gotten wrong going as far back. I mean, we can go back 20-something years ago to the forever wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the New York Times was the chief propagator of that fake news. And they survived. How are they managing to do it? And why didn't Dr. Pat just
the
follow
content of the New York Times is more robust. It's deeper. There's more. I mean, think about all the stuff that the New York Times has that you don't give a second thought to. It has the nation's top crossword puzzle. It has the nation's book review. It has, I mean, there's no other book review like the New York Times book review. If you're an author, you want to be in there. It has, it has the coverage of dining. Sorry, Dr. Pat. It has I mean, it just has a lot. It's got weaknesses. It's bad about local news in New York City. It's bad on sports. But the point is,
the LA Times is good on that even still, though, because all the people that I know that have been murdered have all been featured in the LA Times.
That's good to know. So I think the IPO. Do you remember the WeWork IPO? That was a failed IPO.
Yes.
I think
there's a whole Netflix doc on that.
I think that's what's going to happen here. My banker friends agree. It's not gonna. It will not work. I don't even think they'll ever.
But I mean, don't you think if you get enough people that like to play around with penny stock, if you get enough people buying penny stock, couldn't you inadvertently turn it into a success because of that? I mean, look at the whole Robinhood venture. They tanked GameStop, and then it suddenly went through the roof. No, Robbie says no, that's not what happened.
No.
Hold on.
Hey, Robbie.
Hold on.
No. Yeah. So, as a gamer and someone who plays on the stock market, I can educate you on this. So what happened is that hedge funds, what they were doing is that they were shorting GameStop.
Yeah.
And so there's this Reddit group called Wall Street Bets, which, full disclosure, I like it. Smooth brains. So what you do is that you watch this, because what happens if you short a stock, you got to buy the shares back. The problem is if someone else goes in and they snatch them up first, the venture capitalists, they get fucked. So what happened is that tens of thousands of small retail investors, yours truly involved, went in and just scooped up all this stock, and it raped the venture capital firms. They got destroyed. It got to the point where Robinhood made it where you could not sell or buy your shares.
I remember that.
And it was a huge scandal because little retail, what they call dumb money, we went in and we bent the big guys over the table. And it was,
so couldn't they do that
great.
Here? If Dr. Pat takes it IPO?
No, because what you got to remember is, you're a child of the 80s and the 90s. GameStop is a beloved company for gamer types like yours truly.
Yeah.
So there was an element of revenge from people in our age group who saw what was happening to this company. A lot of people just legitimately just love and care about. They saw that these venture capitalists going to destroy it, and so they swooped in to play havoc on Wall Street.
It was an internet conspiracy and a prank.
Oh, it was massive. And
it was kind of like, let's all do this to show them that we can.
100%. But the thing is, with the LA Times, who cares about it? There's no emotional attachment there except from hate, from what it sounds like. I've never read it.
Not to mention in an IPO, there's only purchasing, right? So people have to be buying and betting for its future.
Correct.
And I don't care even if it's a penny stock, no one's paying money on any stock if they don't think it has a future.
No, well, why would you, right? Because here's the thing about IPOs.
Unless you had loyal, let's say you had an internet version of the GameStop thing where people in Southern California loved the LA Times.
This is our hometown paper.
We're just
we got to save it.
Pitch in, like Jimmy Stewart, where's your money? It's in Grandma Johnson's house. Yeah. It's in my anus. It's here.
The whole reason why AMC, the movie theater still exists, is because of the small retail investors who went in, and the term is HODL, H-O-D-L. You grab onto it, you never sell. It doesn't matter how low it gets, you never freaking sell. And so you just lock up these shares. That's why AMC and GameStop. Yeah, that's why AMC and GameStop still exist.
That's how French people are about real estate. If you inherit a house, you never sell it ever.
The full disclosure, I own Rumble stock. I don't care. I don't care if it goes down.
You don't care what happens to it. Yeah,
it's mine. I'm never going to sell it. I will write it all the way down to zero, or I'll take it to the moon. It's one or the other. And that's just reality.
I don't think the LA Times like elicits that kind of loyalty,
but
because
now
they've
here's
betrayed their readers many, many, many times.
Yeah.
Mine was just, in my case, I subpoenaed them. I know they got 35,000 subscription cancellations just over me. Think about all the other fuck ups that they did that caused. Angelinos are very like vengeful people. They don't like to be crossed.
Let me tell you how to make this work. And
well,
Donald Trump.
That's how we got Richard Ramirez. Was the locals?
I only mean that in the best possible way, by the way. Yeah.
No, what you
no,
do?
This is the best way. We gang up on people. That is the SoCal mentality, Ted. Yeah. I should have saved this to mention during the Eitan Pates conversation, but that is how the Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, was caught, because he was operating in my area, right? And I had the run-in with him in 1985. But anyway, he was caught because of vigilant neighbors, and the neighbors basically caught and detained him and like beat the shit out of him until the LAPD came.
So let me tell you how y'all can make this, how you can save the LA Times and solve the Dr. Pat problem. Have a hostile takeover, because he's going IPO. And so
if it doesn't get aborted like we work.
Right. So what you can do is just go in and just have some kind of a teaser in. If the share price gets to a certain price, we'll petition Donald Trump to send ICE to deport Dr. Pat.
Finally, ICE is up to something good.
Hear me. This is something that would work. I mean, hey, if you can cancel someone's green card who's an 80-year-old grandfather and deport him to Guatemala, why can't you deport?
Who wasn't even accused of anything.
No, yeah, but Dr. Pat's a billionaire. That doesn't happen. From South Africa, like Elon Musk.
Well, what you do is that you can say, you just ask, hey, is he on the Epstein files? Because they don't exist. So then to make it go away, you make him go away. So you tie this all together. So you go with the nativism, and I will win y'all in this deportation thing between what's going on with you, Manila, with what you're going on, you with Dr. Pat, Ted. I will bring y'all Team Robbie. Deport every last one of them. Make America great again.
I don't do
that.
I think we got to move on. Considering the state of America, I feel like ICE would be doing him a favor by kicking him out of this country.
I didn't say. Hey, I did not say send him to South Africa.
Okay.
You get deported somewhere else.
Trump is deporting people to South Sudan. No, they're going to South Sudan right now.
Hey, South Sudan would be awesome. South Sudan. I mean, hey, they need medical doctors to treat the victims.
True, I don't even know if he remembers how to use a stethoscope at this point.
Doesn't matter. Send him to Gaza. Stick him in one of those little hospitals.
Oh, I like that. Yeah,
Israel can finish the problem.
That doesn't happen to billionaires. You know that. That he's a billionaire. It's never going to happen. He's a billionaire. Nothing. It'll never happen. So, Robbie, I got to kick you off because we got to move on to the next stories.
All right.
So that is Ted's gripe with this, and he's wishing death on the LA Times. I'm neutral. I mean, I only have some memory of it as my childhood paper. Obviously, like that's just what everybody read in the 80s.
I'm torn.
So,
look, basically, it's a whore of Babylon, and it's been corrupt as shit for years. So there's that.
Sure.
On the other hand, a city like Los Angeles, a truly great and big city, deserves a newspaper and needs one. So if it's not the LA Times, honestly, it would probably be cheaper to start a new one from scratch.
Right.
So why not just do that one without the baggage of the LA Times?
Ted, I think what Dr. Pat has abandoned, and having been an avid reader and growing up in LA, and like I said, that used to be our local paper. So you would find small sections about Whittier, about Glendale, about whatever.
Yeah.
And it also, I don't know at what point it stopped doing this, but it stopped serving as the local paper and took on a national scope, right? Rather than, I don't know if it's a Dr. Pat thing or just before.
I mean, the LA Times doesn't really break news anymore on a national
No, I agree. And I don't know when they made the transition from it having like you said, LA is so big and so vast that really I feel like at some point it abandoned its interest as a local paper, and then secondarily being a national interest paper. That should have been secondary to its first commitment. Should have been to the local community, and there's 12 million of us there, right? Yep. That we should be able to support the paper, But at some point, we all just kind of abandoned it. And I would say, I don't know, I haven't received an LA Times subscription since a real paper, probably
Well, I mean,
at my
honestly, I
house
think,
since the 90s.
honestly,
So.
and before we move on, I have like what I call the New Yorker rule for when it comes to print media. So if you really want to survive post the internet, your content has to be so essential that even people who hate the publication have to buy it and read it. I feel that way about the New Yorker. I despise everything about the New Yorker. I don't like the font. I don't like the layout. I don't like the cartoons. I don't like anything about it. I don't like the tone. I don't like the classism. I don't like the elitism. Nothing. But they offer interesting stuff. Important shit that if you want to be in the know, you have to read. So I read it. That's like that's the test, right? So the LA Times fails the New Yorker test. The New Yorker test is because It's like, if you live in the Southland, I would say in 1995, if you didn't read the LA Times, you were a fucking imbecile. But now, do you need to read it in 2025? Not at all. Not at all. Yeah. You're never going to go, George Clooney isn't going to go to a party with Suma and say
Huma.
Huma. I always confuse.
No, not Huma. That's Huma Abedin. Right. His wife is Amal.
Amal, sorry. He's just not going to show up with little skinny Amal and say, at a party in Brentwood and have anybody say, hey, George, did you see that thing in the LA Times? That's not going to happen.
I know.
So you don't need to read it. And I think in the end, that's it. That's why they're fucked. All right, let's move on.
There you go.
On May 25th, 1979, 6-year-old Etan Pates vanished from Soho here in Manhattan en route to his school bus, alone for the very first time in his life. His disappearance ignited the missing child movement, put his face on milk cartons nationwide. They never found his body, but he was declared dead in 2001 legally. In 2012, Pedro Hernandez, at the time he was 51 years old, a former bodega clerk, for people who don't know what that is. That's a small convenience grocery store. Working near Etan's bus stop, confessed after hours of interrogation to luring Etan into a basement of a building with a soda and then strangling him and disposing of his body in a plastic bag inside of a box and left it on the curb where the trash picked it up. No physical evidence has ever tied him to the crime, however. He was put on trial in 2015. The jury was hung and didn't convict. They retried him in 2017, which in my opinion should not be allowed. And then he was convicted of second-degree murder and first-degree kidnapping and sentenced to 25 years to life. But on July 21st, that be yesterday, a 3-judge panel of the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals here in New York City overturned that conviction. They said that the trial judge gave wrong jury instructions when asked to disregard Hernandez's videotaped confessions made after he received his Miranda warnings if his initial unwarned confession was involuntary. The court deemed this manifestly prejudicial and ordered another new trial or for Hernandez to be released. Can you imagine a third trial on the same count, if not retried within a reasonable time frame? Hernandez's lawyers said that his confessions were unreliable, coerced, mentally influenced, and obtained while he suffered from mental illness. That's true. With no physical evidence, the case hinged entirely on his statements. Alvin Bragg, Manhattan DA, you might remember him from the Trump stuff, is now reviewing whether to pursue that third trial. And so basically now here we fucking go again. And a lot of New Yorkers were never convinced that they had it looked like the NYPD was really desperate to close the books on this case. And
yeah,
look, I don't blame them. But the fact is, I think they were too eager to listen to the rantings of a madman who may or may not have had anything to do with it. Now, certainly there was some evidence to support. There was some eyewitness testimony. But bear in mind, I'm 61 years old. This happened when I was 16. It's been a long time. The Soho was a dangerous neighborhood at the time. Now it's an incredibly wealthy neighborhood. the city has changed enormously, backwards, forwards, and sideways since then. Witnesses have moved away, have gotten old and died. Memories fade. It's like people who are still around aren't really, as clear about what they saw and what they remember as they were back then. I don't know. I mean, a case this old is going to be really hard to try anyway. But I think they just got a random lunatic is what I think happened here.
Yeah. It sounds like it. So the dude, Hernandez, Pedro Hernandez, apparently worked at the bodega at that time. So, he was there. But this is all circumstantial stuff. But I thought, Ted, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought there was like a Kris Kringle looking character that was arrested before
there was
this bodega guy.
Yeah, you're right. There was a previous suspect, and then that didn't pan out either. So by the way, you really want to break your heart. The parents remained in the same apartment there.
I know,
for decades. They
only recently left, like 5 years ago.
They were hoping their son might come home, and they didn't want to chance the possibility.
God, is that why they stayed?
They didn't want to chance the possibility that he'd been kidnapped and made his way home, and that they might not.
Oh my God.
So. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's heartbreaking.
He would be, I think, 56 now.
No, he was 6 years old at the time in 1979. So he'd only be a little older than me. So he'd be early 50s.
Yeah. Okay. So, but he'd be in his 50s. I mean, the thing is, this story really reminded me. There was a case, maybe about 10 years ago, of an Orthodox, a Hasidic kid, similarly, very in Brooklyn, in the Williamsburg section of Brooklyn, which is heavily Orthodox, where this guy, the kid, for the very first time ever, his mom was like, okay, you can go to do this by yourself, right? He was like 5 or 6 also. He went down the street. He was a little lost, and he grabbed a random Orthodox young man who was like in his 30s and just said, hey, can you help me with directions? This is the story that's really crazy. This guy had no record whatsoever. He never even had a parking ticket, never committed a crime, no question about it. He later said that something came over him that he didn't understand. He was seized with a compulsion to kill him and eat him. And
eat him?
And eat him.
And this guy the young man was an Orthodox Jew?
Uh-huh. Yeah. And basically the guy to this day probably still can't explain what happened. And so he ate part of him, I think, if memory serves. They found bits and pieces in his fridge. And it was like one of those things where it's like, it's the parent's worst nightmare. Literally,
oh my God.
Eaton's very first day, like, okay, he carried $1 to go and buy a soda, and then like, yeah, you can go. And we all, if you have kids, you know this moment when you're finally going to let your little bird fly free by him or her own self for the very first time. I remember vividly when it happened to me, when my mom let me go down the street to mail a letter from the mailbox by myself. And I was, I don't know, I must have been 5.
Yeah.
And obviously.
Times were different. And
not really.
Parental norms were different.
Not really. I mean, 2 of my classmates were killed by serial killers. Okay. It was the 70s. So, I mean,
I encountered the Night Stalker.
One of them, they didn't find any bit of her left that was more than an inch long.
You told me about that girl.
A thresher. I mean, the point is that, like, no, it wasn't. Yeah, at the time, it was more dangerous then, to be honest.
I would think so too. But I'm saying parental norms were different. So, like, for example, I alluded to the whole Richard Ramirez case, and I may have mentioned it before in the past. So, you guys know the Night Stalker, right? The name Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. He terrorized. He did like 1 or 2 murders in like NorCal, but then he did the dozen or so like most gruesome, horrific murders in SoCal and more around my area where I grew up, which is in Whittier, which is the San Gabriel Valley Basin, and more than a dozen or so. And I want to say, I mean, I only learned more about my own experience with this weird run-in. And this is me and my neighborhood friends, because we all shared the same story and we have the same recollection. And it was either real close to the murder that he did in Whittier, which was roughly 8-10 blocks away from the cul-de-sac where I grew up. It was either probably the day before or the day after, but we're like 5 years old riding our bikes in the cul-de-sac, because that's as far as our parents would let us. We were on a cul-de-sac, so it was kind of safe. And we're riding our bikes, and I'll never forget that face, the bad teeth. He stopped like at the T intersection of our cul-de-sac and just stared at us riding around on our bikes, right? And it was 1985. So we ride over to go look at this car that stopped. And he just grinned this gross, ugly, snaggletooth smile at us. The skinny face, the cheekbones, all of that, the curly hair. And my friends and I were creeped out by him. So we all rode our bikes home. I mean 20 yards, right? Back to safety where the adults were. And we told them there was this creepy man outside or whatever. And I remember police coming, getting interviews from our parents, the adults on the neighborhood, if what they saw or whatever. So it turns out it's Richard Ramirez. And he, a couple days later, we find out he slaughtered a family in Whittier, about 10 blocks away. And he's the guy responsible for all these gruesome, horrible, satanic murders all over the San Gabriel Valley, and primarily Asian Americans. He was primarily
seriously chilling, Manila.
He was targeting Asian Americans primarily. There were maybe 1 or 2 white people sprinkled in, 1 or 2 Latinos, and I think he was convicted of like 16, 18 murders or something like that.
And
but the majority of them,
there probably were more. There must have been others,
maybe were Asian. And so you couple me growing up in the shadow of the Eitan Pates case, which went national, right? Then sadistic killing comes home to Whittier, California with Richard Ramirez. You can imagine the clampdown that my family put on little Manila. But even still, the weird thing was they would allow us to walk to school, which is exactly how Eitan Pates got kidnapped.
That's how my classmates got murdered too.
Right. So, but outside of that, we were not allowed to really leave our cul-de-sac because Richard Ramirez was literally murdering Asian Americans in the San Gabriel Valley in SoCal.
By the way, Manila, I have the information. It was 2011 when Hasidic Jewish boy from Borough Park. Sorry.
This is 2011?
Yeah, his name was Levi Kletsky. He was walking home alone for the first time from day camp, 7 blocks to meet his mom. Missed a turn, got lost, approached Levi Aaron, a 35-year-old Orthodox but not Hasidic Jewish man, for directions outside a dentist's office. Instead of helping, Aaron kidnapped him, drove him to a wedding in Muncie, that's 40 miles outside of New York City. It's a very Hasidic community. Brought him back to his attic apartment in Kensington, Brooklyn. When Aaron saw missing child flyers with Levy's photo, he panicked, drugged the boy, suffocated him with a bath towel, dismembered him, and then his severed, partly eaten feet were found in Aaron's freezer, and the rest of his partly eaten body was in a red suitcase dumped in a trash bin a mile away.
Oh my God. I didn't know it was that recent. I mean, well, so this is what, like Ted said, every parent in America, their worst nightmare is that moment that you allow your little ones some little semblance of freedom. For us, our little semblance of freedom in the shadow of Eitan Pates, and at the time, active murder investigation around the Night Stalker, our little bit of freedom was riding our bikes on the cul-de-sac, and we couldn't leave because of that, because we were living currently with the active murdering happening from the Night Stalker. And after that, though, of course, what can you do, Ted, when you're a parent? What can you do? Because at some point, your kids need to have some autonomy to grow. And there's inherent risk with living in this world. Like you can't eliminate all risk. There's cameras everywhere now. So, I mean, yes, that doesn't prevent necessarily the horrific kidnapping or whatever of children. Maybe it could help it could aid in finding the people that did it, but that doesn't change the fact that your kid has been snatched and eaten, right? Like that doesn't change that. But this is how we have arrived at millennial parenting, doing the helicopter parenting, right? Mm-hmm. Where you're just constantly hovering over your kid. And then you've now created a whole generation of kids that cannot function independent from you. So how do you balance that, right? When you hear of these awful stories.
The bottom line is, look, here's the thing. It's like we were talking about. The fact is that life is full of risk. And you get on a plane. Could that plane crash? Sure. I mean, look at the Air India plane. Looks like the pilot committed suicide, right? He looks like the pilot killed the power and then cut the gas. And the co-pilot's like, what the hell are you doing? And he was apparently very calm. So, I mean, you could have a psycho pilot. You get hit by a car. Anything can happen.
I know.
And you just have to, unfortunately, though, that's just the risk of being alive. I mean, that's all. I mean, there's no guarantee ever. We should move on. Malcolm-Jamal Warner, the actor who rose to fame as a teenager who played Theo Huxtable on the Cosby Show, died in Costa Rica at the age of 54. He drowned while swimming at a beach on the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica near Limon, according to the country's Judicial Investigation Department. The authorities said in a statement that he had apparently been swept away by a strong current, or I guess riptide, and that bystanders had attempted to rescue him. There are a lot of surfers there. Obviously, Cosby Show was a huge show from 84 to 92. He was 21 years old when the show came to an end, and he had played this role as the middle child and only son since he was age 13. So I have this story the reason this resonated with me, I mean, frankly, I never watched the Cosby Show ever, but I think the reason it really resonated for me was the Costa Rica connection. So, I was editor of acquisitions, which is basically the talent scout at United Feature Syndicate in the late aughts, early teens, and there were only 5 of us who had that job in the United States. There were only 5 syndicates, and I was working at one of them. At King Features Syndicate, which is another major syndicate, was a guy named Jay Kennedy. So we all knew each other really well. And Jay Kennedy was a very sweet man. And one morning, while I knew him, he had a great marriage, no kids, no stress, everything was cool. His 40-year-old wife just pitched forward face first into her breakfast and died immediately. And she just died. And turned out they did an autopsy, and she had a congenital heart condition. She had a hole in her heart. And no one would have ever known. Nobody ever checked. We don't do preventive medicine in this country. So he was heartbroken. He loved his wife so much. He was just wrecked. And the news got out, and his high school sweetheart reached out to him. They reconnected. They fell in love again, got married, and they went to Limon, Panama for the honeymoon. And on his very first day at the beach,
Costa Rica,
he goes out for a little swim, pulled out to sea by a riptide, never to be seen again. And as everybody's watching and trying to get to him. And It was almost like God decided that Jay was not allowed to be happy. It's like, it was just like,
what a tragic story. Like Malcolm-Jamal Warner, like just what a sad ending.
There you are on vacation trying to relax. It's a horrible way to go. I mean, I don't know about you.
I hope his family didn't, like his children.
I've been trapped in a rip current in Martha's Vineyard. And I did know what to do. You're supposed to swim parallel to shore.
Parallel, yeah.
And I did. I mean, seriously, I did it. That's why I'm here. and you keep getting pulled out.
I stopped going out into the ocean. I told you, after what I thought was a jellyfish that was going to sting me was an open, dirty diaper, a poopy, open, dirty diaper. As I laid on my board, like 20, 30 yards out from shore, I'm just, and then the water lapping on my face. And then I was like, oh shit.
Right. Maybe a great white shark that was trying to kill you would have choked on the diaper.
Not a jelly. Open, poopy diaper floated right by my face. And after that, I thought maybe, I don't want kids.
I saw syringes in the surf at Coney Island.
And I'm not coming out anymore. I'm not doing the surfing. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing it.
I hear you.
And so after that, I've stayed away because I was just thinking, I know it's dumb because like the ecology of the ocean doesn't work that way. So I know you guys are going to tell me I'm retarded for thinking that, but I know like the ocean is somewhat self-cleaning and self-sustaining. And so one dirty diaper near my face was not going to kill me. It's not like a dirty diaper in a pool or somebody, mass amounts of poop in a pool. So I know it's not like that. I know that, but that's not how, being grossed out works. So it grossed me out enough that I would, after, I don't know, age 16 or 17 that this happened, I just stopped going way out into the ocean. I only go out to maybe my hip at most. So, no, I've never been caught in a riptide, but having grown up in a coastal community or coastal area, you're pretty much always taught to how to deal with that. So it's like instinct. But very sad to hear this news because everybody loved Theo. Everybody loved Theo Huxtable. And Ted, I just gotta show this. I don't know if Malcolm-Jamal Warner stayed in touch with Bill Cosby, but Bill Cosby, after all his legal drama, spoke out about, giving condolences to the local, I don't know who this is, NBC or whatever in Philly, because I think Bill Cosby has a home like outside of Philly somewhere. So he spoke to the local affiliate by phone. I'm not sure that if I was Malcolm, that I would want Bill Cosby speaking out about me. Just like looking down from heaven going, no, not Bill. Don't get a quote from Bill. Like,
well, I'm sure Bill didn't have anything bad to say, right?
No, but I just wouldn't want to, after Bill Cosby's whole drugging everyone and molesting and raping everybody. Yeah, I'm not sure that I would want that to continue after I passed away. Just saying.
I hear that. President Trump is pulling the U.S. out of UNESCO, which is the UN Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. He ordered a review of America in UNESCO back in February, saying that he was looking in particular for anti-Semitism or anti-Israel sentiment within the organization, as if they were the same thing. So after their review, the Trump's people said that they were pissed off about DEI, as well as their pro-Palestinian and pro-China bias, according to the White House. Among some of the things that they flagged were the publication of an anti-racism toolkit in 2023 and in 2024, Transforming Mentalities, with the men all caps, initiative, the former of which called on member states to adopt anti-racist policies and compete in a race to the top to be the foremost social justice advocate, answering questions about the history of racism in their jurisdictions and then working to ensure equity. The Mentalities Initiative published a report highlighting the organization's work in India, aimed at reshaping how men think about gender issues, especially harmful gender norms. Having spent a lot of time in India, frankly, that sounds like a pretty good idea. The men there really could use some re-education about women. But anyway, meanwhile, UNESCO used its board to force through anti-Israel and anti-Jewish actions, according to Trump. Examples would include designating Jewish holy sites as Palestinian World Heritage sites, but they're a lot of Jewish holy sites are Palestinian World Heritage Sites. Also, UNESCO frequently uses language stating that Palestine is occupied by Israel. That's because it is occupied by Israel, and condemns the Jewish state's war on Hamas without criticizing Hamas's reign over Gaza. Yeah, but that's not really their business, right? Because they're a cultural organization. Now, Trump got us out of UNESCO before in 2017, also complaining about the fact that UNESCO wasn't sucking up to the Israelis. And this goes all the way back to 1983 when Reagan got out of UNESCO, saying that it was too anti-free markets. So basically, Clinton got us back in. So basically, every time a Democrat comes in, we go back in. Every time a Republican comes in, we go out. Biden had us rejoin in 2023, saying that we needed to be in it in order to counter China. So I guess,
well, that's a weird reason to be in it.
We should probably just have a halvesies membership, like maybe we can just have an Airbnb, like
partial membership.
Yeah, like
UNESCO can do like ranks of you could be like gold level, platinum level.
Right, it's like a GED compared to a real high school degree or something. We could have an Airbnb next to the UNESCO headquarters, like not a good Airbnb, like sort of the kind that they didn't really clean it that well. There's still hairs in the tub. That kind of membership.
Is there a fee to join to get your property into UNESCO? Is there?
I don't know.
I mean, I'm trying to understand the
Well, we must pay, right? I mean, the member states.
I feel like we should pay. Yeah, you have to pay to contribute. I don't know. I feel like it would be a good cause, because we're part of the world and there are things you want to preserve about history.
Sure.
But that's just me. I don't know. I don't get that. But okay.
All right. So that's that. And then last and maybe least, the U.S. will now require international tourists and other visitors to pay something called a visa integrity fee of at least $250. That's in addition to existing visa application costs, which can be pretty pricey. For example, last time I checked, for a Russian person to come to the United States, even before the Ukraine war, it was like $600 for a U.S. visa. And so this would be in addition.
So this is an additional.
Right. So this is. The fee applies to all visitors who need a non-immigrant visa to enter the U.S. So those are tourists, business travelers, international students, and other temporary visitors. Last year, there were about 11 million of these visas. So tourists and business travelers from countries that are part of the visa waiver program, which is a lot of European countries and Australia, aren't required to get visas at all for 90 days or less. Payment will be required at the time that the visa is issued. There will be no waivers. Travelers who comply with their visa conditions can have their fees refunded after their trip is over. However, according to immigration attorney Stephen Brown, he said the fee is a refundable security deposit, but he pointed out that there's no mechanism that's been put into place whatsoever for actually getting your refunds. So that's all in theory. Manila, this is going to obviously have a chilling effect on tourism. It's going to make it more expensive to visit. And I think even more than the money, it's the symbolism, right? It's like basically the country saying, really don't want you to come. We're going to make it more difficult for you as much as possible for you to visit the U.S. I've long wanted to visit Bhutan. And to get a visa to go to Bhutan costs thousands of dollars because they're a very closed off country. They don't want visitors. They look at Nepal and they're like, tourists have totally crapped up Nepal, and we want our country to sort of remain a Buddhist Himalayan mountain kingdom. So we'll limit the number of tourists who come in, and the way we do that is by making it insanely expensive. And so whenever I think about going to Bhutan, part of me thinks in the back of my mind, they don't really want me to come, right? They don't. And part of the reason I've never gone to Bhutan is because of that. I think this. I mean, this is not as extreme as that, but it's in that family. I think.
Yeah, well, Ted, we've talked for months now about how untourist friendly the Trump administration has been, and we're not talking about ICE. I mean, we are talking about ICE, but not in the way we've been with these ICE roundups. What we're talking about is people that would otherwise normally not even require a visa to visit the US, like people coming from Germany, for example, getting snatched up, like they're on vacation in Mexico, they want to come visit California while they're down there, right? Getting snatched up at the border by ICE. They have no crimes, nothing. They're just German tourists trying to come. Enough now that German media is telling other Germans, maybe you shouldn't go to California. You shouldn't go to America. So, places like San Diego or Los Angeles, Ted, you may have heard, are tourist destinations.
Right.
And we generally, if you're a small business owner, like my mom was, you like that you're near touristy spots like Disneyland or Knott's Berry Farm, and tourists want to eat cuisine that they can't find in their home country, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want them to come because it's part of the fabric that is Southern California cuisine, right? You can find anything.
Absolutely.
And it will devastate the economy if you're making it completely cost prohibitive and an additional layer of hoops to jump through if you want to come to the US. And in my case, I'm talking about SoCal. It will devastate the economy.
And a refundable fee might not sound as bad, but it's also kind of.
But it's just dumb.
It's like, actually you've created two steps. Not only are you charging people money, but like, they have to remember to get their money back after they get home.
Well, no, I was saying this when you were grabbing your food, Ted, was you're getting, like, you're selling tickets to come visit the US, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
because theoretically you'll just forget that $250 refundable ticket is there as a deposit on your visit. You're going to forget. And given that we issue roughly 10 million non-immigrant visas every year, let's say 50% of people, not like me, because I'm a penny pincher and I will track down every penny that's owed. But let's say 50% of people forget. You're talking hundreds of millions of bucks. And, the Trump admin says they're trying to boost revenues without increasing taxes, they say, without whatever. Yeah, here's a way.
Yeah.
There's a way to do that.
Yeah. No, it's true.
I guess. I just think it's going to devastate the broader economy and send a bigger message to the outside world that your money isn't welcome here. You're not welcome here.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. Couldn't agree more.
So, no, that's,
right.
I think it's dumb. All right. Well, that does it for us this Tuesday, this dumb Tuesday. Talking about kidnapping and satanic murder rituals, and a tourist fee. Welcome to America. Come get murdered by satanic worshipers. Have your kids kidnapped and eaten. Why not? Come to America. I think we should pitch this we could sell this to the Trump administration, We could pitch a commercial, this like anti-tourist, anti-immigrant. Here's why you don't want to come to America. Like,
your child might be eaten or kidnapped.
That's right.
We have a lot of bitey citizens.
Your wife can be.
I'd like to point out to
raped
to Robbie that these bitey people are full-fledged U.S.-born citizens. We haven't had a lot of. I don't know about. What about Ramirez? Was he a foreigner?
No, he's I think he's Mexican American. The Night Stalker. He was born in the U.S.
So I think our cannibals are all American born.
They are Dahmer.
True.
White American.
Ohioan.
Oh, is he an Ohioan?
Oh yeah.
Ted.
Oh yeah. So my friend. I told you the story.
I know.
Bechdorf. He was John Bechdorf. He was best friends with Jeffrey Dahmer. I know him, and they hung out all the time. And he later figured out that while Jeff was, having certain lunches and dinners that he should not have been having, that one time he was hanging, and he's like, "I'm gonna go grab a beer from the fridge." Jeff's like, "No, I'll get it." And he later figured out that that's because during that time there were body parts in the fridge.
Oh my God. I didn't know Ohioans were so murdery.
That's why.
I didn't know that. I thought you Midwesterners are supposed to be like nice and like friendly, wonderful people. I didn't know you guys were so murdery.
We get hungry. You don't get hungry?
Speaking of hungry, Ted, I popped an ad for you if you want to read it.
All right, let's do it. I'm hungry.
We're going to make it active. There you go, sir.
Let's do it. All right. Did you? Is it in there? Oh,
it's there. It's ready to go.
Cool. All right. Attention. Wow. Attention, parents. Do you want your child to grow up with a real understanding of the heroes who protect our freedom? Now you can teach them with The Kid's Guide to America's Mighty Military, an exciting educational guide that celebrates the courage and dedication of our armed forces. Your child will learn about every branch of the military and the important values of service, responsibility, and patriotism. Plus, when you order today, you'll also receive The Kid's Guide to the B-2 Spirit Bomber, an incredible bonus guide about America's most advanced stealth aircraft, completely free. Give your child a greater respect for those who serve and protect while making learning fun. Don't wait. Supplies are limited. Go to freemilitarybundle.com to claim your free gift bundle now. That's freemilitarybundle.com. Order today.
All right. Thank you to our sponsor today. Ted, do you think we got that sponsorship because we were talking about children being kidnapped and eaten?
I was wondering about that. I was also wondering if it's because of my strong, loyal support for all the branches of the U.S. military, particularly Space Force, which everyone knows I'm very loyal to.
Well,
yes.
Well, speaking of loyalty, just a quick little plug. Here in about 5 minutes, we are going to be going live with our first premium episode. I think it's our first, might be our second premium episode of the month. And it's going to be kind of spicy. It's about how feminism has destroyed the West and is contributing to global economic population collapse.
And I wasn't there for it because the one uterus
lady
possessor of the show had to go deal with some other uteri people in my family. So
you snooze, you lose.
it was.
So stay tuned.
It really, really was a good reason to subscribe to Rumble Premium. It's a very good exchange, and we're gonna have more of them. By the way, guys, we need to.
Yeah, we gotta like crank these out before the end of the month. So please stay tuned for that.
All jokes and clickbait aside, it really was a very good conversation, and I do encourage y'all to watch it.
Okay.
Yes, please stay tuned for the TMI premium episode. Anyone that has premium access, it'll be there. So stay tuned if you guys can. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Adios, amigos. Thanks for being here. Stay hungry. Don't eat children. Bye.